You know, Jeremy, the last couple of years, we've seen some pretty major shifts in what's been going on in the world of sports car racing in general, and certainly in the International Motorsports Association. Last year, the final year of GT Le Mans, the factory GT cars. This year, another era is ending. After 6 years, the Daytona Prototype International or DPI class is going to be wrapping up at the Petit Le Mans. I thought it might be fitting because it's really been a fairly remarkable era to talk a little bit about that DPI program, what it meant to the sport when it was envisioned in 2015, came into existence in 2017, and what it's done for the sport. 2017, first year that it came in, and it replaced the Daytona Prototype era with a manufacturer involvement in terms of designing and building the cars.
First of all, to be able to unveil a new race car at a major auto show like the Los Angeles Auto Show is monumental for our brand, and I think it is ultimately the expression of what we're trying to do on the racetrack. To have our design team in North America and in Japan truly design the bodywork of this race car and tie it in with our Kodo design language, which is so much part of our road car lineup, is absolutely incredible.
So P2 cars, LMP2 cars were kind of on the fringes, and then for 2017 DPI era came in, and they were based on LMP2 cars that raced also at Le Mans and in the World Endurance Championship, but the manufacturers were allowed to add their own design cues to the bodywork of the cars. So it's the same chassis. There were four different manufacturers that the manufacturers could choose from. Then they could add their own design cues, and then the engine manufacturers could do pretty much what they liked within bounds. And it was fairly tightly controlled. It has been very tightly controlled by the IMSA technical team. But there's enough, I think, enough opportunities there for the manufacturers certainly to add their own characters to these cars, and it's been a tremendous era. I mean, we talk about the glory days of sports car racing. Some people talk about back in the early 80s with the World Endurance Championship and the old Group C days. I honestly think these last few years have been the best era for sports car racing. It's been so open. It's been relatively affordable, certainly compared to the World Endurance Championship, where the numbers just got completely out of control with all the different hybrid systems they were adding on, and the technology was impressive but ridiculously expensive and beyond the realm of all but very few manufacturers. Now, we've only had 3 or 4 manufacturers involved in DPI over the years, and we're down to 2 now, with just Cadillac and Acura, with Mazda pulling out at the end of last season. But the cars have been absolutely fantastic, provided some tremendous competition. If you look at this year, when the World Endurance Championship were racing at Sebring as well, alongside the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, and the Super Sebring, as it's been called, it was off for a year or two through to COVID, but back again this season with the new hypercars that have been brought out over in Europe over the last few years. And you look at the hypercar against DPI, no comparison. I mean, the DPI cars are faster, they cost a heck of a lot less to run, and it's way, way more competitive. So, they've hit the nail on the head of IMSA with this category, and it's been tremendous. The fans have loved it, the drivers have loved it, everybody has been a big beneficiary of this DPI era. Personally, I love the fact that the privateers and the LMP2 cars could compete with the DPIs. I loved that. I thought it was great.
I did too, actually.
Manufacturers didn't like it so much because they're not spending. If you look at the budgets for DPI teams now compared, let's say, to the early days of the ALMS, where the Audi was in there with the turbo diesels, I mean, they were spending massive amounts of money, and Porsche, even with the LMP2 cars, back in the day, they were hugely expensive. And we're seeing the same sort of performance out of the cars now as we were back in those days for a fraction of the cost. And everybody is now using the same tire as well. There was bespoke tires were produced back in the days where the manufacturers would task the tire manufacturers coming up with something suitable purely for them. That's gone away. There's some people that lament the fact that we don't have a tire war on in sports car racing at the moment, at least in DPI. I'm not of that ilk, because I think it's a level playing field. I'd like more tire manufacturers involved, yes, but it's so much more cost effective this way, and it puts the onus on the drivers and the teams, rather than having all those different entities trying to gain something out of it. This way, it's much more of a focus, I think, on the teams and the drivers, and I think the fans have really embraced that and enjoyed it.
The DPIs are now going away. There's still going to be the manufacturer aspect to the class, but with a spec hybrid system. So trying to bring it more into what the 21st century, if you will, in ways, but doing it again with a real eye, it seems to me, on cost effectiveness, and not massive, spends and outrageous budgets, but keeping the competition close. Time for that?
Yeah, probably yes. We were down to just 2 manufacturers in DPI, so I think it needed a bit of a shake-up. We've now got 4 for next year, with Acura and Cadillac being joined by BMW and Porsche back in the top realm of sports car racing as well again. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And then Ferrari potentially, and certainly Lamborghini coming on board in 2024. So, manufacturers have embraced this. Costs are certainly going to go up. There is a hybrid element to this system, but at least it's the hybrid part of the technical package is mandated. You have to run that. Everybody has to run that same system, although the electronics are free, and it's going to be it's going to be a challenge. I think it's certainly. Bringing these different manufacturers in there has raised the game, raised the bar, and I think it's going to provide some tremendous competition. And I love the fact that they brought back the GTP name, because certainly that GTP era of IMSA, back in the 80s, was fabulous, and everybody looks back on that era very, very fondly. And I think we're going to be doing the same for the current GTP era. It's going to come in on stream for 2023.
It's what the OEMs have wanted for a long time. Provide me a cost-effective package and rule set that allows me to run for an overall win. Box one, the fans. The fans want to see the best of the best, drivers, teams, manufacturers on the best circuits, both here in North America and in Europe, or in what Pierre Fillon and the World Endurance Championship or the ACO are doing. So there's no question that we got the formula right. The market has spoken. With the commitments from Acura, BMW, Cadillac, Porsche, now Lamborghini and the GTP. And then, of course, in GT, Ford told us 6 months ago they're coming with a new Mustang.
Yeah, GTP resonates almost magically, doesn't it? And to have that back. And then, of course, the next thing we hear is Porsche, after their 962 was such a powerful force in the original GTP era, their new Porsche LMDH or GTP car is the 963. I think people are really embracing this concept. And, testing so far, a lot of testing being done. It looked like Porsche got out of the box early, got some miles in. Your insights on that? Any idea as to who may have an early leg up, just in terms of testing?
I love what's going on right now. I'm not interested. I'm not an old-fashioned news hound. Yes, I used to run a racing magazine, but I was just talking about the facts, not the rumors. I'm not really interested in rumors. I suppose I am, right. But I'm not interested in perpetrating rumors. Let's put it that way. And look, I don't know. I mean, Porsche certainly, they were first out of the box. They've got more miles on this thing than everybody else. They in particular helped develop the hybrid package that is being used on these cars. So they've got a leg up on everybody there. But so the other manufacturers at least are saying, and so far as I know, still saying, that Porsche has been very open with all the information they've gleaned from all those early tests. And certainly all the other manufacturers were involved in those tests. They were present at the tests. They might have seen, not obviously they wouldn't have seen all the data that Porsche was producing, particularly from the chassis side of things, but from everything else that they were. And I think that open book has it certainly, I think, fostered a strong relationship between the manufacturers that are being involved in here, and a spirit of cooperation. Let's hope that continues. We want to see them going tooth and nail out on the racetrack, but we don't want anybody trying to sort of steal a march on the competition and gaining an unfair advantage, as the term used to be coined.
As I said, you and I have been calling ALMS IMSA for a long time. We both have some experience with the original IMSA and the original GTP era. Looking at things now, what have, including this DPI era, IMSA has done an awful lot right. And they brought back racing. The crowds are big at the events. Things are going well. But with this new GTP era now, as DPI fades away, what do you think yet needs to be done? What do we need to be doing to continue to grow the sport of sports car racing?
Not much, quite frankly. I mean, they've got more manufacturers in for next year. There's more on the horizon with the Lamborghini and Ferrari, and potentially some of the hypercar manufacturers, and maybe Toyota or Peugeot perhaps looking towards getting involved over here as well. I think that would be fantastic. And you talked about the convergent, the fact that that those other manufacturers are certainly going to be eligible to compete at Le Mans next season. You've got to be careful. It's kind of careful what you wish for. The more the manufacturers you have involved, the more are going to be disappointed when they're not winning. And the good news from that point of view, I think, is that IMSA, I've said before, the IMSA technical team, they have so much data that they draw from all of these cars and from all the events, and that's going to be the same during all the tests that have been taking place and will be taking place. We've got the one at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. There's another one, open test scheduled for Daytona in early December, I think it is, and they're going to be gaining all the data from those tests and trying to make sure that all the manufacturers are as closely matched competitively as is possible. We've seen in the past that some of the manufacturers try to, you hear the term sandbagging, where they haven't not showing their full potential until they get to the racetrack. Well, IMSA, I think that has happened a couple of times over the last 7 or 8 years, and IMSA has stamped down pretty darn hard on any manufacturer that try to pull a fast one. And so I think that bodes well for the future. What else needs to be done? Well, not a lot. Just keep doing the same as they've been doing now, and keeping everybody abreast of what's going on in terms of technical package being updated, or looking forward to the future and making sure that the growth continues along the path it seems to be going. It's great. A really exciting era ahead of us, Greg.